Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Trance, a Japanese action fantasy movie from 2005 that stars Tak Sakaguchi. Now the following plot synopsis is from the website Far East Films. The star and stunt team behind the movie Versus reunite for this visually splendid, action-packed fantasy, Trance. Tak Sakaguchi is Grave, a wandering warrior who steals a mystical coffin from a temple of monks. In tow, he has a little girl with him, seemingly the protector of the coffin, and who will follow it wherever it goes, no matter whose hands it falls into. Speaking of which, there is a whole host of kooky and deadly characters after the coffin, all hunting Grave and confronting him for some down and dirty sword fighting. As his journey progresses and his enemies increase, Grave soon learns that the coffin may not give the power he hopes for, but it may cause the undoing of the world if opened. Now, one of the best things about Trance is that it has a lot of style and atmosphere to it. Now, on paper, this is a lower budget fantasy flick that takes place mostly in a forest with some other locales mixed in. So I do compliment the filmmakers for making this more visually interesting than you would expect. You know, the forest itself is kind of normal, but it has its own kind of atmosphere. But they do add some fog, some weird entities that live in the tree trunks. You get Buddhist temples and statues, some fantasy-based imagery, like an abnormally sized moon in the sky and stuff like that. They also add a vibe that could be described as metal, really. I mean, literally, it is. I mean, the temple where the coffin is stolen has tons of metal chains in it, and the coffin itself is wrapped and sealed in chains. The character clothing and designs are weirdly gothic and metal, and even the music has some cool heavy metal tracks in it, so they definitely went all out with the metal vibe in this. And all of these things have a cumulative effect that creates a pretty neat world with its own nuances. It makes the film memorable. Now, plot-wise, this is nothing great. It's pretty thin stuff, really, but the fantasy elements are intriguing. What is in this mysterious coffin? Who will unsheath the legendary sword that shows up in the film? What is this little girl doing here with this coffin? Which characters will team up? Which will compete against each other? Like I said, it's all kind of surface level stuff, but I enjoyed it. It keeps you in it. Runtime is only 1 hour and 30 minutes, which helps. Now, Tak Sakaguchi is fun in the lead role, to no one's surprise. He is the main character, but his backstory is shady. He stole this coffin at the beginning of the film for reasons that might be selfish. He's also rather conceited and kind of a jerk, which is, that's how Tak is with a lot of his characters. It's just his, the type of role he plays. And there's definitely some black humor in this as well that does work. And there's a sense of fun to everything. It has an energy to it. Keeps things lively. Now, the weird little girl also has a lot of screen presence. She's mischievous and cute at the same time. You get the feeling there's something wrong with her, though. She's a little demented, which is always cool. So shout out to the actress Honoka Asada. Now, fun fact, remember those Gamera movies from the 1990s which had Steven Seagal's daughter in them, Ayako Fujitani? Well, Trance has Steven Seagal's son in it, Kentaro Seagal, and he's pretty good. He has a few neat moments. Now, action design is very creative and different for a fantasy movie. One reason for this is that this is structured around Tak Sakaguchi's talents in real life, so we get some similar things to the action design in Versus, only more of a fantasy-type vibe. So, he does his quick strikes and punches to the body in this at sometimes. There's a diversity of weaponry that he uses. There's simple, dull-edged staffs, to rifles, to multi-purpose batons, to bigger stuff. And as early as the opening 10 minutes, there's a fun death scene involving Kentaro's character. Now, the action choreography in this is good. There are some sweet acrobatics at times, even some capoeira fighting. This is all adequately supplemented with interesting adversaries as well. You get nomads, you get zombie-like demons, you get a villain at one point. One flaw, though, is that the weakest fight is the finale of the film. So it's a mix of like slow motion flash editing. It's cool visually, decent fantasy sequence, but it's still somewhat disappointing compared to what we got before that. So that is a bit of a flaw in this. But the action is good overall, for sure. Now, this director, Yuji Shimomura, has been involved in stunt work consistently for decades, but he has only been lead director in 3 films: Death Trance, Reborn, which was very good, and Crazy Samurai Musashi, which had its problems, right? So, obviously Musashi was by far the least impressive film of those 3, but hopefully this guy directs another movie in the future. He's got some talent. So I definitely recommend Death Trance. You should know if you're into a film like this. It's pretty cool, and I cycle this into my rewatches fairly often. It's currently available streaming on YouTube, Tubi, and Amazon. It's also available on physical media. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.